Well, good evening. Welcome to Sports on Sunset for April 29th. I'm James Jericho.
I'm Jeremy Paul.
And we are going to have a little bit of fun here on the main stage of Marty. Basically, all the other comics have lost the will to live.
Yeah.
They're out on the porch getting high. You might have heard us mention that in recent episodes. Oddly enough, on the alleged main stage, we are the only one in the play. So we're going to have some fun up here. Jeremy, what I wanted to talk to you about tonight for the main debate is the New Orleans Saints and NFL football in general. New Orleans Saints last week, it was discovered not only did they have bounties going out on particular players in games, but there is now an alleged conspiracy where they bugged much of the Superdome, the visiting locker rooms, the visiting coaching rooms, et cetera, in order to try and find out what the other team was talking about. If true, that's a federal offense. Mm-hmm. And yet, the thing that catches me most about this is, despite all of the gnashing of teeth and wailing in sports media, nobody gives a damn.
Well, they shouldn't, because here's the thing. Of all the spying that you could have done, a general manager listening to a coach, assistant coach, offense coordinator would be the least of your worries. Because I'm of the belief that a general manager probably doesn't know what a Z6 428 route is. Right? So, like, Z6 428 on 4. And then the quarterback, of course, audibles on the field. So you don't know, the general manager doesn't know what's happening.
Is that necessarily true? Because in this last Super Bowl, the Super Bowl where Tampa Bay beat Oakland, and Gruden, of course, who was former Raiders coach coaching for Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers were calling out Rich Gannon's audibles as he was calling them out. So are you absolutely...
Well, that's to do with a team. That's not the general manager. Okay. The general manager isn't out on the field. Like, teammates can figure out what it, like when I played football, like I would know what was being run because you learn what's being run. The general manager is not going to be down there on the field.
So the question, though, going back to the main question, why the Saints now have potentially illegal violence and potential federal crime. What I'm saying is, I mean, look, it doesn't matter whether or not you're stealing football plays. The idea that you're bugging another person's alleged private domicile is the fact, and yet there's no outrage.
Alleged private domicile.
Technically, it's an alleged private domicile. It doesn't really belong to the Saints. It belongs to the NFL, and the NFL technically in that scheme.
Wouldn't it belong to the owner? Because usually the owners have stadium rights.
I don't necessarily. Well, the reason I don't know, I'm not being a lawyer.
Right.
Let's get that part out of the way. What I'm saying to you is that it is an alleged. It can be a federal crime. The feds are looking into this.
Right. That's what they should. I doubt that it was happening. Just because you have the technology to do something doesn't mean you're going to use that technology.
But the Patriots did.
Well, that's the Patriots. Patriots are full of cheaters.
Which brings me to things.
Back to the Saints. But here's the difference between the Saints and the Patriots was that obviously the Saints were better at hiding it if they were cheating.
Okay.
And up until a documentary was being made, nobody knew that the bounties were going to go that far. And again, the bounties are in sports regardless. People have bets going on who would dunk on Mutombo first, or who dunk on Yao Ming first. That's a bounty. It's the same thing. It's not as much violence as football, where you're trying to take people's careers away, but it's the same thing. Teammates paying teammates to do things.
I'm going to tell you that I am not going to fake outrage over this either. And my rationale is entirely different, and you can jump in and blast me for some of these things. First things first, let's be frank. I mean, it's the New Orleans Saints, and everything that the New Orleans Saints do, whether it be winning a Super Bowl or cheating to win a Super Bowl, I think our national consciousness is, hey, you know what? So what? That makes up for Katrina.
Eddie Guerrero, baby.
Yeah, but it goes beyond whether or not it makes up for a natural disaster, which took thousands upon thousands of lives. I believe that there are two reasons that NFL fans are not outraged. The first is this, is that I think most NFL fans have come to realize that if you have outrage over something another team does, I think most of us subconsciously realize that if we have outrage, we're being a hypocrite. I don't know, it's a guess. Like, for example, let's say you're a Falcons fan. In the division alone, you're a Falcons fan. I'm outraged over this federal crime that the New Orleans Saints have allegedly committed. Really? Federal crime. You're outraged? Hey, woof, woof, woof. Federal crime. Remember that, buddy? Remember? Huh? Ron Mexico? Or even moreover, if you're a Panthers fan and you're outraged, what? A bounty on your head? A bounty on your head, huh? Just like the bounty on Ray Caruth's baby mama head?
This
really?
Is the third reference to Ray Caruth on this.
Second. But I'm very proud of those references. And by the way, if you're a Buccaneers fan, nobody really cares what you think or if you're outraged.
Not at all.
Yeah. So that's one reason. The second reason is that I believe that the NFL has mastered the art of the spin cycle, the spin news cycle. We forgot, the New Orleans Saints were all you heard about on Monday and Tuesday. Come Wednesday, we forgot all about it the moment we saw Mel Kiper Jr. Okay? So we were talking draft. Nobody remembers anything about the New Orleans Saints since then. And I would also add that it goes, it's like, what? What? High-tech invasion of privacy? Or who are the Cleveland Browns going to take at number 3? The other rationale is that everything now that the NFL does is a blockbuster. They hype it up like no other. What? Whoa. The Saints were taking bounties out on people and intentionally trying to maim them? Well, wait a second. How does Ryan Khalil look on the bench press? We're so busy watching
the combine.
We're so busy watching people run in a straight line that we get given a damn. So those are like the two things that come to mind. The other thing is this, is that about a decade ago, a sports writer wrote a book called Pros and Cons. The reason he wrote the book was the assumption that your average NFL fan had was that the Raiders and the Cowboys were just loaded with criminals. Not true. All NFL teams were loaded with criminals. All of them.
Yeah.
And the number one and two teams were not the Cowboys and Raiders. It was at that point the Minnesota Vikings and the St. Louis Rams.
Orgy boat, baby.
Exactly. So the orgy boat didn't matter. Well, actually, no, that was the Vikings. You're right. Yeah. Every NFL roster has at least one player accused of a felony. So no team is morally better than the other. I'm not a big moral relativism guy, but moral relativism definitely applies here. The other thing is that I would also argue that in order to get good, you have to load your roster up with criminals. I would argue that. If you think about it, virtually every team, a good team is the Saints. They're getting knocked around. The Raiders got knocked around in the early part of the decade when they were good for a massive steroid scandal. But then you go and you take looks at other teams that just missed out. Look at the San Diego Chargers when they had their 3 or 4 really big window of opportunity. A defensive lineman shot by the cops in a domestic dispute. A defensive back allegedly trafficking codeine for something that we refer to as lean or the purple drank. Sean Merriman allegedly assaults Tila Tequila.
Well, she deserves it.
And former quarterback Ryan Leaf currently on the run from the cops. And do yourself a favor, don't give Junior Seau the keys to a vehicle. Now,
how did I know you were going there?
What I'm trying to tell you is this. I like to rip on San Diego sports fans, and this is not really that much intentional. What I will say is this. As a Raider fan, I am an a-hole, and yes, I am targeted by the cops, but at least I am comfortable knowing I'm not a hypocrite. I know my team is full of a-holes, and I know my fans are a-holes.
Go Bears.
Yeah, go Bears. Speaking of you, tell them what's on your mind, brother. Go for it.
What's on my mind is soccer. Here's why soccer is on my mind. There's a league overseas in Europe where if you're the last place team, you get dropped from that league.
The Premiership?
Yeah, you get dropped from that league and bring another team from a lesser, like the B pool or something like that. They bring up the B pool, and that team replaces that team. And every year, the last place team gets dropped out. I think that needs to happen for the NBA. Because this year, the Charlotte Bobcats were by far the worst team to ever field a team. The Charlotte Bobcats should not be in the league anymore. Jordan should not be able to own a team. And they should bring up the Tulsa 76ers from the NBDL and have them be the last place team next year. Because obviously Michael Jordan can't run a team. He's running, what, 2 teams now?
Yeah.
2 teams. He drafted Kwame Brown and Adam Morrison. No more Charlotte Bobcats. No more Charlotte Bobcats. No more Charlotte Bobcats. I'm done.
Guys, I missed out on most of the NFL draft, and there were 2 primary reasons why. The first is, look, I saw the highlights after the fact. Commissioner Roger Goodell, the man is whiter than liquid paper, and yet, if you notice in all players he introduced, he knew all the ethnic handshakes. This is not what I want from the commissioner of a major sports. This was more awkward than the interracial dating episode of Moesha. I mean, I don't want that in a commissioner. I don't want a hip-hop commissioner. I don't want a commissioner that can go double dutching with Antonio Cromartie's 12 kids. And there's a reason for this. Yo, hey, welcome to the NFL. Yeah, what's up, brother? Yeah, what's up? Yeah, boom, boom. Okay, try doing that when you're about to fine the guy for excessive celebration.
Or, like, last year, when you introduced a guy by his nickname of Delicious.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
See, and here's the reason I did not know that. I don't like watching the NFL draft because the NFL draft reminds me that Chris Berman is still alive. This would be so much more of an interesting world if Chris Berman weren't in it. Without Chris Berman's, without Chris Berman stealing lines from John Facenda, without giving himself multiple nicknames, and without shamelessly ripping off song lyrics from the 1970s, the 1970s, ESPN would be way more about talking about sports and less about personalities. Memo to Bristol, Connecticut. It's May. There is no frozen tundra of Lambeau Field right now. I mean, for Pete's sake. And if you looked at the way ESPN, it all stems from Chris Berman. All personality and catchphrase and very little actual sports dialogue. Now, some not so bad. Dan Patrick. Not so bad. Whatever. He's on radio. We probably have more viewers here than he has on his radio show. That's fine. Craig Kilborn. 2 shots at the apple on TV. He left, and the TV shows got way better. Yep. Last I heard about Craig Kilborn, he wants to host Marty's on Saturday night. That's fine. Let it happen.
Daily Show.
But then after that, oh, you know what? And in lieu of that, he's got an email into Bill Word. But anyway, look, then from there it just gets progressively worse. From there you've got noted misogynist and drama queen Keith Olbermann. Now, Keith Olbermann used to be a hack sports announcer in LA, got fired, but because he had a couple of catchphrases and ESPN became all about catchphrases, he got a job there, parlayed that into a news gig, and of course he keeps flaming out because nobody likes him. I'm not saying you should hate Keith Olbermann. I'm not saying that Keith Olbermann should die. I'm saying in order to attack the disease, you don't attack the after effects of the disease, you attack the disease. Don't hate Keith Olbermann. Wish Chris Berman would die. Okay? And it goes even more than that. Stuart Scott is an even bigger stain on hip-hop than the Source Awards. Ja Rule wishes Stuart Scott would shut the hell up. But what I'm saying to you is, don't hate on Stuart Scott. Wish Chris Berman would go away. That's what I'm getting at. Every time I see that guy singing on stage in that haggard footage with Huey Lewis and the News,
comb over.
Yeah, and trying to drink out of a bottle of can of Slim Fast, I keep hoping somebody would drop the cyanide pill in there. A mercy kill would be so good. And maybe we can actually talk real sports again. Guys, that's what's on my mind. This is my good friend Jeremy.
For all of y'all.
And I'm James Jericho.